Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Peter, for the wonderful introduction. Peter makes you really feel great, even if you're actually not. I'm not that great, but thank you so much for the introduction once again. And yes, today our presentation is market access for improved livelihoods among smallholder farmers in Buvuma district. So I'm taking Uganda and Buvuma as a case. Buvuma doesn't have actually much information on it, not much data, so I'll give most of the examples from Uganda as a whole, and then I'll give something from Buvuma, the place I've worked for over 7 years. So this is Buvuma district. First of all, this is Uganda. That's the position of Uganda in Africa. It's in East Africa. And this is Buvuma district. Buvuma district is an island, so it's located in the center of Lake Victoria. And when you're inland, this is the view you get from the water. Some statistics, Uganda has a population of 40 million people, approximately. And then a total area of 241,000, approximately square kilometers, and then a land area of 197, 100 square kilometers. Then water surface is 43,938 square kilometers. That is the Uganda side. And then when it comes to Buvuma, the district, the smaller island I'm working on, we have a population of approximately 1,000 people. And then total area is 9,545. When I talk about that, I mean the whole district. Not only this, but all these small islands form what we call Buvuma district. So that was just by the way, but our takeaways for today, I'm talking about market access. So market access is very crucial in improving livelihoods among smallholder farmers. That is something I would like us to go back with. Secondly, market access is still a big challenge to most of the smallholder farmers, especially in developing countries, including Uganda. And these are people I've been working with for the most part of my career. So we need to take action as key stakeholders in international development. And then thirdly, this is my thinking, and I think it is also objective, that extension efforts should embrace a market-oriented approach to agricultural development. We've seen in many instances there is transfer of technology, transfer of technical assistance, but people are not paying attention to the market aspect. Those are the three takeaways I would like you to go away, to take from this presentation. Background. I would like to talk a little bit about agriculture in Uganda. So agriculture is still the backbone of our country, Uganda. And as you see, it contributes 26% to Uganda's GDP. Uganda's GDP is, I think, like 24 billion USD, not so big. And agriculture contributes 26% to that. Agriculture also employs approximately 70% of the population of Uganda. Like you saw, Uganda is 40 million, and 70% are agriculturists. And most of these people are situated in rural areas, and they are smallholder farmers. You know, I don't know whether you know, but I think you've come across the definition of smallholder farmers, like 2 hectares and below. So those are our farmers, even on Buvuma Islands. So these smallholder farmers still face a lot of challenges. Most of these are not new to you, but international development is like a Bible. We need to be reminded every day. So they face the challenge of low productivity, like land is getting degraded. It's no longer productive as it was. So you find that people produce less and less, and that also is affected by other challenges. For example, climate change, which is bringing about, increasing temperatures. So we see a prolonged dry spell in the past, and then in the present, and we see a lot of changes in seasons. Rains come at a time when you don't expect the rain, and the sun, the dry season comes when you don't expect it. So it becomes a real challenge when it comes to agricultural planning. And there are many other effects of climate change, like them, like pests that come with the increasing temperatures, and so on. And then there is also access to technology. The smallholder farmers have a challenge with accessing technology. Technology in forms of like improved crop varieties or improved breeds, but also in form of the hardware, like irrigation systems, storage systems, and any other technologies that is modern, that is very relevant to agriculture. It's still a big challenge to these smallholder farmers in rural areas. And then access to credit is a challenge. I'll give an example of Buvuma district, where I come from, because this is our case study. We don't have a single bank in the district. So we mostly rely on our small savings in groups, village savings and loan associations. Buvuma is a hard-to-reach area because it's on water. So not many people want to invest, especially financial institutions, want to invest in such a hard-to-reach area. And also people are poor. Poverty is a problem itself. So when you're poor, banks don't want to deal with you because they want to deal with the people with whom they feel secure. Access to markets is a challenge, and it's a challenge which to me has not been given due attention, because everyone thinks of increasing productivity, but productivity without thinking about markets will not actually improve the livelihoods we would like to see among the poor in these developing countries. So that is kind of a small background. And also, you might be interested in understanding the kinds of enterprises we engage in as Uganda or as Buvuma district. First of all, we have all these, maize, sorry guys. Yeah, maize, banana. Banana is common to most of you. Rice, we have sweet potatoes, we have cassava. Cassava is this. I've come to understand that many people don't know cassava. It is this, that's why I put the picture. And then we have millet. I didn't put a picture, but I don't know whether you know millet. It's a grain, I think. And then sorghum. Then we have coffee. And then we have passion fruit, like watermelon, a lot of fruits, pineapples, oranges, avocado, mangoes, jackfruit, and lots of vegetables. And then we have tea, cotton, tobacco, sugarcane, Irish potatoes. I call this simsim in Uganda. People call it sesame. I don't know how to pronounce it very well. Sesame, whatever. Yeah, but it is simsim. I think you understand that. So tea, cotton, tobacco, and coffee. These are our traditional cash crops in Uganda. Coffee, tea, cotton, and tobacco. Those are traditional cash crops. They were introduced by the colonialists, the British. And all these other things, they were food crops. So it was very difficult to find people selling banana, for example. In my family, I grew up in a farming family. Like my dad and my mom and myself, we used to go to the garden. We had a coffee plantation. So we used to sell coffee, and that's why I'm here. It's because of the education I got, because of the incomes from coffee. We had lots of big plantations of banana, but I never saw my dad selling banana growing up. I never saw my dad selling maize growing up, or sweet potatoes or cassava. This was for food. Traditionally, these other crops were for food, and the cash crops are the only four I mentioned: coffee, tea, cotton, and tobacco. Now the challenge is many families are still thinking in that way. They grow these things for food. And the trends have changed. These have become also cash crops, not only food crops. But people do not, the extension, or the people assisting us in transforming agriculture have not actually paid attention to factoring in the fact that there should be transformation from producing these crops as food crops, but as cash crops, because that's where we are going. So why market access? I've already almost preempted why market access. So why market access? Why am I focusing on this? Why is it today's presentation? It's because there is a huge domestic, regional, and global food market. Like in Uganda itself, there is a lot of market potential. In the region, there is a lot of market potential, and globally. But still, smallholder farmers cry, we don't have markets. We don't have markets. Why? Why don't you have markets? There are markets everywhere. People want food. For example, Uganda is feeding Kenya, our neighboring country. Uganda is feeding Rwanda. Uganda is feeding South Sudan in the north. Uganda is feeding DRC Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. But still people in Buvuma and people in other areas of Uganda cry, we don't have markets. Yet there are markets around us. So why? It's a problem. Market access is very crucial in improving people's livelihoods. Because when you talk about livelihoods, it's not just food, but people need money. They need an income. So if we are trying to alleviate poverty, we need to focus on market access. And then we've seen from the developed economies, like USA, like Holland, and those who are still developing but are almost there, like China, Malaysia, they focused on market access. And that's why they transformed their agriculture. China we have food, but still China wants to give us food in Uganda. You see how aggressive they are in looking for markets and trying to access them. So market access among smallholder farmers, especially in developing countries, is still constrained by a number of limitations. These are just some of the things I based myself on to say, yes, I think this is a topic that is worth undertaking. So I would like to talk more about the limitations to market access. And one of the biggest challenges you have is infrastructure. Infrastructure, and I try to break it down into roads network. This is still a big challenge, which needs action from different stakeholders, especially the government. I gave some pictures here of, this is Uganda. Generally, this is Uganda. And this depicts a picture of rural areas where most of the agriculture activities take place and where most of the farmers dwell. And so these are kind of roads we have. And this is, definitely we have these good roads with the help of especially the Chinese. This is like Entebbe Express Highway running from Kampala to Entebbe International Airport. We have these, but they don't help us. The food is in the villages, and that's where we have these unpaved roads that makes it so difficult to transport the produce from the villages to where the markets are. I also put in place this. Buvuma district is kind of unique, with unique challenges, because in addition to this, the roads, then we have the water, which makes it even harder, to access the markets. So this is our transport system. This is the only way you have to go through to reach Buvuma, or take a boat, which I didn't put here because you would be scared. Yeah, but the challenge is this ferry is timed, so it moves like 3 times a day. 3 times a day, so it's not really reliable. I mean, you can't take your goods at a time when you need to take them. People in Buvuma are fishermen, and fish is perishable. But you have to wait for ferry time to transport your fish. So somehow people lose out on their harvest. And then we have another challenge, which is electricity. Buvuma is not connected to the national power grid. So we don't have hydroelectricity power. We only have a few solar panels for those who can afford, on top of the roofs of the houses, just for lighting. But this is not enough for doing business. And this is a fact in many areas, rural areas in Uganda. They don't have access to electricity. But Buvuma even makes it harder because other people have hope, probably, because it's a matter of money. Like if you have money, you can extend the electricity. Buvuma, taking electricity from water is a big challenge. Or it needs a big investor so that we start drawing water from the lake maybe and make electricity or set up a big plant. But yes, electricity is a constraint, a big one, because we can't do processing, agro-processing, which is very important for accessing markets because of lack of electricity. And then storage. Storage is still a big challenge, just like it is a challenge in other areas. I think this is disturbing me. Storage. We still have a problem of infrastructure when it comes to storage. People store their produce in a funny way. You find that people lose a lot of maize, for example, due to rodents or bad atmospheric conditions because of lack of good storage facilities. Marketplaces. Most of the markets are in the city, good markets in the city, or in some big centers, but not in the villages. So accessing them is a challenge. It would be nice to extend marketplaces in such places. For example, gazetting some area, we saw a lot of bazaars in India. I mean, like food parks where you could put food. That is good enough, but we're still missing this. And then telecommunication is also very instrumental in accessing markets, but you can spend it, not really a day, but the network is not stable on the islands. Like getting someone on phone is a challenge. You can call and then they say, oh, the mobile number you've called is not accessible at this point, at this time, and you need the person. So we need more masks, I think, to make communication crucial. People have phones, mobile phones. They've actually tried to access mobile phones. But the challenge is most of them actually have, I think. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, people have mobile phones. Technology is really penetrating the villages, but we don't have the smartphones. We have the other phones. How do they call them? What is the opposite of smartphone? Smartphones? Yeah, those ones. People in developed countries have access to apps that are applicable to smartphones, but in the villages, that's still a challenge. So accessing good information is not really coming through. Though we try to use SMS, which is actually working, but it would be better also to adapt the smartphones. Other limitations. I just paid a little bit more time to infrastructure because I think it's a big challenge, a big constraint to market access. But there are also another full list of other challenges. Market information, which I just talked about. People don't access the market information. One, because market information is very expensive. People don't want to release market information because the traders, the people in the markets are the ones with this information, and they don't want to release it because they lose out on business because they want to cheat. So when they tell you maize in Kampala is at this price, then you not take your maize to somewhere else, you take it to Kampala. So they don't want to give you that kind of information. They are kind of not transparent. So in addition to the lack of technology, but even the market information flow is a bit constrained. Access to credit is a challenge because for all this thing to move, we need access to credit. It's a constraint. Then weak market regulation enforcement. This is still happening in Uganda. So some smallholder farmers are ignorant, or not even ignorant, but because I've also fallen a victim and I'm not very ignorant, what they do is you take your 50 kilograms of maybe millet to the market, and then they put on a weighing scale, and the weighing scale is changed like this, like instead of counting 50 kilograms, it counts 20 kilograms. And they give you money for 20 kilograms. But actually, it is 50 kilograms. This happens a lot. I don't know that this is only in Uganda, but but this happens a lot in the markets. It's because of the poor enforcement of market regulations. NBS, not really NBS, but yeah, I think so. National Bureau of Statistics in Uganda is supposed to make sure it's supposed to enforce, like making sure that people use good weighing scales. But sometimes they don't do this, or sometimes they bribe, and people continue using these fake things. So there is a challenge when it comes to government institutions in enforcing these regulations, making sure smallholders don't lose out. Inability to meet like market requirements in both quality and quantity. Yeah, this is still a challenge because of low productivity, but also because of the poor standards. People, for example, when it comes to post-harvest handling, there is a way for example, maize, they dry on the ground, and you expect to take your maize to the market. It can't meet the market standards. So people still need to be taught, to be sensitized on how to meet the standards. Coffee, you find people harvesting coffee. Instead of picking the red beans, the ripe beans, they pick even the green beans because they want more money, not knowing that they are losing money because they can't make it to the market. Then inadequate value addition or agro-processing establishments. We still have a challenge in Uganda. I said we produce coffee, but I'm not a coffee drinking person traditionally. But I grew up on a coffee farm because I even didn't know that there was Nescafe. It was only after growing up and started working, I started buying Nescafe. Nescafe is instant coffee. It's not even real coffee. So there's a challenge with agro-processing establishments in Buvuma, but also in Uganda at large. So we lose out because not many efforts have been done towards establishing these kind of things. We are selling our raw materials to developed countries, and then they sell back to us. Then weak farmer organizations. Like during my work in Buvuma, what I've tried to do is to set up organizations, farm organizations, small farm organizations. But these are still weak. They are not really up to the standards. They don't have the capacity to act as drivers for economic development for these people. Because these organizations are supposed to serve their members, but they still lack the capacity. And I think that constrains the access to markets. Inter-country relationships, Just last week or 2 weeks back, we saw Rwanda, our neighbor, good neighbor, refusing our trucks from Uganda from penetrating into their country. So we saw a lot of trucks, I think last week or 2 weeks back. A lot of trucks are staged on a border of Uganda and Rwanda. President Kagame didn't allow our trucks to go into Rwanda because of political issues. And we saw many people losing out. So there is also a challenge. We have the East African community and many agreements going on, but a lot of it has been politicized and it's not yielding much fruit. Globalization and liberalization is a big challenge because smallholder farmers in Buvuma are competing with big farmers in the US. Smallholder farmers in Buvuma are competing with big farmers in China, with big farmers in Holland because we still have goods from Holland. So this is a challenge of globalization. Or even Egypt. It's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. But we need to, because we need to empower these smallholder farmers to make use of this opportunity by being competitive. If we don't do this, then it's a curse instead of a blessing. Then traditional farming practices, this is what I talked about, that we still do a lot of traditional agriculture. We practice agriculture as a culture just for food and not as a business. And this is the challenge because even those who come to help us, they come with this kind of mind of increasing productivity, saying, okay, what are you producing in this area? We produce maize. Okay, we shall support you to produce maize. But maize is not good for the market. So, I mean, why don't you help these people to say, no, change from maize and go to cocoa, because cocoa is good for this land, and it's what is demanded in the market. Yeah. So this brings us to the market-oriented approach, which I think is still a missing link. I believe that addressing market access should be taken wholesomely, focusing on the productivity side, but also the marketing side. So market-oriented approach is too broad. I can't go through everything, but I think the goal here is to generate profit, because this is what we want. Everyone needs money, and the smallholders need money, and that's why they are crying for markets. So all our activities should be income or profit-oriented. We should practice agriculture as a business, not just as a mere source of food, if we want to transform the livelihoods of people. Market decisions should be driven by profit and by market, and not by my neighbor is doing this, or oh, I dreamt about this, intuition. So extension workers should take smallholder farmers as partners in agribusiness. Like they should work with them as partners in agribusiness, and they should enforce this, that you're partners in agribusiness. Please make good decisions that help you to benefit. Decisions relating to enterprise selection, decisions relating to input and resource allocation, and decisions relating to marketing. So this whole idea of a market-oriented approach is just about making decisions from the word go. Many farmers don't do this, but they have the brains. They are poor, they're in villages, but they have the brains. So if we sensitize them, they can actually adapt this, the market-oriented approach, so that they be able to make decisions based on this approach. So these are some of the questions to ask. I'll not go through them. Yeah, but what should I produce that is profitable? Instead of saying, what should I produce? What should I produce only is not enough, but which is profitable? Then you go into business. What inputs do I need to use, and in what quantities? And where to get them? And how much are they? If we don't ask such questions, then we lose out. Then marketing, you need to know from the word go, where am I selling my produce and to who and at what price? So that also gives you a chance to know when should I produce. During dry season? Probably yes. What should I produce? Organic? Maybe yes, because that is what is demanded in the market. So we have, this is Illuminate Change, our initiative in Buvuma. And our goal is to improve livelihoods and climate change resilience among smallholder farmers in Buvuma Island. Illuminate Change is the name we gave our initiative. This initiative was begun last year. When I was in Buvuma, I was looking at all these challenges as a government employee, and I conceived an idea of coming up with a better way of trying to create impact. And I tried to start something, but it didn't work very well because I didn't have probably the capacity to bring out change as a person, as an individual. So when I came here for the Humphrey Fellowship year, I decided to dedicate my Humphrey Fellowship year to making this idea happen, making my vision happen. And I started networking, and I got some people to help me. I think the first person I contacted was Tara. Yeah, Tara is behind there. Oh, Tara is behind there. Yeah, and then she gave me some contacts. I continued networking, and I phoned Laura. Laura is up here. You want to wave? Yeah. And Mihao. So we began this. We went to some professors here to give us guidance. We began this. We wanted to improve the people of Buvuma. So in December, winter break, we went to Buvuma Islands together, the three of us, myself, Laura, and Mihao, to do a rapid assessment of what is actually the ground. What is it like in Buvuma? Because I was telling them stories, but they didn't know exactly what is happening down there. So we wanted to start from a well-informed point of view. So these are some of the findings we got. Limited access to markets actually came out strongly, very strongly. We met with different groups, just like you see them, and every group was crying about market access. Then also climate change effects was an issue. Then inadequate modern agricultural knowledge and skills, because these people are practicing agriculture as a tradition, they don't have enough trainings. And limited access to trainings. And then livelihoods options, because these are fishermen and then farmers. They don't have much more options for improving their livelihoods or generating an income. So our next steps, we are trying to come up with some projects. Some of them are already underway. We want to enhance climate resilience, and we are doing this through setting up climate smart demonstration gardens, but then taking into the market-oriented approach, like helping the people to ask these questions which you just saw. And we are trying to promote value addition because this is a missing link. And in our capacity, we are beginning with these food preservation trainings. We are also trying to do vocational skills development just to enhance or to diversify the livelihoods options of people. Then enhance cooperative model. We are trying to bring, this is a meeting where we brought all the groups we met in Buvuma on the last day. This is just a section, but it's actually many people. We are trying to build a cooperative model because we think that through working together, we can actually try to improve livelihoods as a group. These people do marvelous things in one area. For example, they do well in poultry, and these people do very badly in poultry. I mean, different groups do well in different things, but they don't share. They don't come together. Some are very good in growing maize, and they know how to do it, and it comes out very well. The other group doesn't know. So we are trying to bring them together to share knowledge, but also to have a voice, to have the negotiation power to access all these other services they need. And we shall also do project management trainings to foster project sustainability, but also to make sure we impart into these people the kind of model we want them to take, the kind of road we want them to take, and the kind of approach we want them to use in their agricultural enterprises. So our strategy is collaboration, because, this is too much, almost too much. But our strategy is collaboration. Like we are working with other organizations to make sure our approach happens. So we've tried to build networks with Uganda's National Agricultural Research Organization, NARO. This is the topmost agricultural research organization in Uganda. And then we are partnering with Makerere University. This is the national university in Uganda, the top #1 to which I went. And then Cornell University, a well-known research organization in terms of agriculture in the United States, but also in the world over. And then we are partnering with TechnoServe. TechnoServe has a base in Washington, DC, I think, and it is well known for creating business solutions to poverty. It's actually focusing on business. You know, everything you do, business-oriented, market-oriented, that is TechnoServe. And Uganda Industrial Research Institute, it's like Uganda's business incubator. Like you find everything there, everything in different sectors, including agricultural, agro-processing, you know, incubators. And then Buvuma District Local Government, of course, because we saw the infrastructure, the policies. Those things can't happen if these guys are not on board. So they are our good partners, and they were our entry points when we went in Uganda in December. Having worked with them, it's actually a good thing. I mean, it's easy for us to connect together. So this is what we are trying to do in Buvuma as Illuminate Change. And I would like to conclude by giving you my takeaways again, which is like market access is very crucial to improving livelihoods of smallholder farmers, but we still face many challenges, and we need action from different stakeholders. And my emphasis has been on extension. Cornell is an extension, and many people here have good knowledge in technology and technical expertise in production, but we need to do a lot when it comes to markets in assisting smallholder farmers. Thank you so much, and I'll take some questions.